Boom, we're back, and we have another newcomer to the channel. This time it's Tyler. Being one of my favorite guys to roll with when he's somehow uninjured, he's finally here at the gym, training, not injured after his knee surgeries, and he's ready to roll today on the channel with Mike, the Asian Persuasion. Now everybody has seen Mike on the channel before, but for a little bit of background info on Tyler, he was a D2 college wrestler, also an MMA fighter, a purple belt, and he's actually the dude that tore my shoulder the very first time, which is pretty fair because I've cut him in sparring before from a knee to the head. He hit a wonderful guillotine sweep on Mike because everybody at this gym, if you're doing no-gi, has to know how to do guillotines or at least how to defend them because they are really common submission at this gym. Now Tyler is doing a nice job controlling the head with the same guillotine grip, but Mike is able to peel the wrist off. And it's smart that he did that because otherwise he's going to get set up in the cradle, and the cradle is a bad spot to be if you're trying to win from bottom. And if you're wondering about the tape that Tyler has over his left wrist, this dude is constantly obsessed with tracking his fitness workouts, so he has his little heart rate monitor under the tape because he doesn't want it to get banged up during rolling. Now while these two decide to gaze into each other's eyes, one thing you have to know about Tyler is that since he has all that college wrestling experience, he has extremely heavy hips when he's on top of you. He's always pushing forward, which makes it harder for you to set up submissions, sweeps, etc., and it also makes you carry all of his weight. But since a lot of things happen in this role, we're going to do the question of the day really early, and the question is inspired by Tyler. How do you do when you're rolling with other wrestlers? Do you like to succumb to their pressure, or do you prefer to choke their head off? Typically, I love to put them in the guillotine, but if you're having issues with the wrestlers, let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I can try and help you out. Now you can't technically be considered a wrestler if you don't always try and shove your shoulder into their chin, face, neck, etc. Tyler's doing just that, but Mike's bringing his left arm in so he can create a wedge against the bonus head control. Now one of Tyler's favorite spots is this halfway point, which I consider the heavy zone. This is when you're not standing all the way up, but you're also not chest to chest. It puts all of your weight onto their legs, so after a long roll, it's going to be extremely taxing to the guy on bottom if you're stuck in this position the entire round. Tyler's going to pass Mike's guard, and he does it excellently by using a hip switch. He extends his right leg backwards, goes up in the air, and uses his left knee to bump Mike's leg out of the way. Then he can pass the guard, move directly into side control, and again he's setting up that same bonus head control pressure he had against Mike's head earlier. And that shoulder pressure really is the biggest problem about trying to escape these positions. You can't turn into them if you want to shrimp, and he can also pull you backwards if you're trying to turtle away. Luckily for Mike, he does let go of the bonus head control, but he's setting up some good points of contact. We're going to notice that he has his left knee against the neck, he's grabbing the tricep, and he also has chest on chest pressure. With these points of contact, you can easily lock somebody down and keep him from escaping. Every time Mike tries to move away from him, he can control the tricep and pull him back in, threatening any attack such as an Americana or a Kimura. Tyler chooses to attack with the Kimura, and he's already sitting on Mike's face, which is super embarrassing for Mike, but he has to try and fight his way out of this one. He's trying to go belly down, and the more you can turn towards your belly, the easier it'll be to defend, but Tyler gets a nasty finish on Mike by pulling him over and getting a same side Kimura finish. When you're on the same side, you apply all the pressure to their shoulder directly instead of having some pressure built on their chest at the same time. Now Mike is not a huge fan of losing, and of course nobody really likes to lose, but he's going to go a little bit harder at the start of this next round. He first starts by playing with the head so he can get Tyler unfocused. Then he's going to hop right over his guard, but Tyler's going to turn towards his knees. From his knees he decides to shoot on a nice single leg, switches it to a double, and then he gets on top of Mike. Mike was looking for a guillotine at the same time, but because he was going for an elbow high one instead of an arm in guillotine, he couldn't control Tyler's posture. Tyler also does a nice job of keeping his head on the inside. If you can have your head on the chest, it's really difficult to choke them out. You can still get caught in some chokes, so always be aware of that, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for the guy on bottom to finish you. Tyler goes for a really interesting technique from guard. It's called a little bit of nipple play. He decides to bite Mikey, but Mikey can't do anything because Tyler can out-grapple him, out-strike him, really just beat him up if he tries to stop him. So it's a good thing to have people like Brock in the world that they'll defend you even though you can't defend yourself. Mike does a pretty good job keeping Tyler locked in the guard, but he's not setting up any offense of his own. Tyler is then deciding he wants to try and push off the hips. And by pushing off the hips, this allows you to create some nice hip pressure, and then you can try and open their guard. Now Mike willingly opened his guard because he had Tyler's arm trapped, and maybe he was looking at an arm drag, but unfortunately Tyler was able to slice his knee across Mike, and now he's working in the half guard position. He also has that bonus head with that right arm set up immediately, and Mike's going to have to fight that same battle before, where he has to try and fight Tyler's pressure. Mike does have some pretty good guard retention because as Tyler was passing, he was able to push him back into half guard, but unfortunately he's still stuck in half guard on bottom with no offense of his own. Now Mike's looking at the camera and looking at us as if we have some advice for him, but I've got nothing for him at this time. He's really got to start moving so he's not getting taxed so much, because being underneath a big wrestler who weighs quite a bit more than you is going to be extremely hard on your body if you're going to be here the entire round. Now like I said earlier, Mike's doing a nice job so he can defend against Tyler from passing, but it only goes so far if you're always on defense. You need to set up some tempo on your own time. If only the other guy's deciding the pace, he's going to decide when the submissions are going to happen, sweeps, or any other position. Tyler's also deciding right now he's going to move out of Mike's half guard. He does a very interesting step because he was able to peel the hands, he moved right into side control, and then he does a back step as if he's going for a knee bar or other leg attack. Ultimately, he doesn't, so I'm not really sure why he did that step, but he is able to get a really nasty knee cut onto the opposite side. Once he can shove his knee down to the mat, he's also looking towards the head and arm pinch. This is great because you can start to set up your next submission being the head and arm choke, and once again Mike is looking at us as if we have the answer for him on how to get out of here. Now turning away is giving them a better angle for the choke, so Mike should try and turn really harshly towards his right. It's going to be difficult to do because Tyler already has a lot of pressure on that side and he's driving forward with his shoulders so he can apply even more weight towards Mike's neck so he won't be able to move as much, so Mike has decided he's going to go towards answering the phone for his defense. The only bad part about answering the phone is that you kind of admit defeat. If you're going to stay flat on your back, you're really hoping that they can't finish the choke and they're going to move out of this submission, but Tyler has a really strong lock and he's walking his hips and chest forward towards Mike's neck. Unfortunately for Tyler, however, the time runs out and Mike was able to survive because the clock helped him out. Now if you appreciate the video and you like seeing the newcomer Tyler to the channel, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out and then I can have more guys like this on the channel. Thanks for watching.